Hey, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast, reminding you that this podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the other great podcasts on the network at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, powered by Match Shark. Listener ready? Stand by.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, a podcast about the men and women who compete in IDPA matches around the world. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey. IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association, was formed out of the concealed carry movement back in the 1990s. It's based on the founders' desire for a sport based on real-world defensive skills and not just fancy equipment. IDPA matches are a series of stages that are based on realistic defensive scenarios, and they'll test the shooter's skills in gun handling, accuracy, speed, and problem solving. Men and women from around the world compete every week in IDPA matches, and here at Unload and Show Clear, we introduce you to those people. We talk one-on-one, people, not politics. These are not professional athletes. They're everyday men and women, your neighbors, your coworkers, public servants, your kids' teachers, and you're going to meet one of those great people today. And for 2020, Unload and Show Clear is powered by Match Shark. If you watch videos from last year's IDPA World Championship 2019, you will see that shooters had to deal with the discomfort of shooting in sometimes heavy rain. If you were at that match, or if you were with me at the 2019 Arkansas State match, you know how much fun it can be to shoot in the rain, especially heavy rain. Why do I say that? Well, pasting and scoring targets is not fun at all. Not only are you and your equipment soaked, not only are you cold and wet and damp and uncomfortable, but pasting and scoring targets makes your day even that much more fun. You can't see the scoring zones. The pasters and the tape won't stick to the targets. The targets ultimately will disintegrate because they get waterlogged and have to be changed more frequently. Well, contrast that Arkansas State match to the World Championship and compare the targets. There was a big difference. The difference was you had baggies on the Arkansas targets and you had Match Shark covering the World Championship targets. Match Shark's patent-pending target shields keep targets dry even in heavy rain. They're reusable too, so the cost of those shields is quickly recovered by simply patching and reusing them over and over and over again, because you're not shooting the shield, you're shooting the backer that holds the shield to the target stand. Well, once you're done, you just take the things off, slap a little paster on it. There's a tape paster that covers up the holes. Boom, you're set to reuse it over and over and over again. And it makes your staff happier because setup and scoring and tear down are so much easier. It makes your shooters happier because they can see the targets and they don't have to deal with plastic bags. They're designed and manufactured right here in the United States. They are owned and operated by two IDPA shooters themselves, people experienced in match direction and setup. Will and Chris Schmid, whom you've heard on this podcast, they understand the challenges that match staff face when dealing with wet weather. So let them help you run your matches faster and smarter and make it a better experience for your safety officers and your shooters. Visit matchshark.com today and get everything you need to be prepared for your next rainy day match. That's matchshark.com. Visit them today, matchshark.com. Our special guest today is Clint Bowen from Winston, Georgia. Clint, welcome to the show.
Hello, glad to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living there in Winston? You were telling me that you, despite all of the slowdown that most people are experiencing right now, you're actually keeping rather busy.
Yeah, we're staying pretty busy right now. I am the third generation plumber and electrician, so obviously that has been deemed essential, which sometimes I think is more convenient than essential. But It has been good. We've been very busy, very blessed. My wife, she's a nurse, and so obviously she's been on the front lines and all of that type stuff during all this craziness. But also, I'm a partner in a brass business, Georgia Brass, which has also been deemed essential. And as we all know, in these kind of times, the firearms industry goes crazy. So it has been through the roof. So we've been very blessed.
Third generation in the plumbing and electrical business. How long have you been in Georgia?
I have been in Georgia my whole life. I was born and raised in it. Well, let me back up. I was born in Atlanta and raised probably 30 miles south of Atlanta, and then wound up now I'm about 30 miles west of Atlanta. So always been a Georgia boy, and again, raised in a family business, and decided at a young age that working for family probably wasn't where it was at. It wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good. And but really, really fortunate. I didn't realize at the time what what kind of future it was preparing for me, really. And when I graduated high school, I was burnt out with it, and I never went to college. Sometimes I think maybe I should have. Sometimes I think I did the right thing, but I was burnt out with it. And I had a stepfather that has been in my life quite some time, and always treated me like a son. And he was in the insurance business, and I tried that for a year, and I just couldn't get the plumbing and electrical out of my blood. And I went back to it, and at 21 years old, I went in business for myself, and
oh wow,
I've never looked back. And I won't say it's been perfect, and I won't say it's been easy, but I'd been married. Oh, I'd been married about 4 months. I walked in, told my wife, I said, I'm quitting my day job. I'm going in business for myself. And she looked at me like I had three heads, and I had already left home and all the above. But I told her, I said, I'm going to try it. And, if it doesn't work out, I've got time for a career change, but I don't want to wait till I'm 30 years old to try it. And here I sit, at 37 years old, and wife and two kids, and it's been good to me. I can't complain. It's not all easy, but I don't know anything that is. And it's pretty cool to have a third generation background in it. I was very fortunate in that, and it's been good to me.
So growing up around Atlanta, where did the interest in guns come from? Were you always tagging along doing the plumbing stuff, or did you have some time to get out and do some shooting as a kid?
Well, ironically, my dad, he is a twin brother, and we were very tight growing up. And I started working. I started going with my granddad when I was 5 years old. I would go with him to work, and my grandmother would come and get me at lunch. She'd pack me a lunch, enough lunch to eat for three people, and then she was coming to get me at lunch. So you can imagine I was a little chubby kid, but anyway, that's how it all started. And my uncle, he was really big into guns and archery and hunting and all that type stuff. And me and him just really hit it off. He's been a father figure to me, and just me and him are really tight. And I started shooting with him, and just kind of me and him had a lot in common. So I started tagging around with him, and it just grew and grew and grew to a point of just like any child that gets into shooting. We started shooting 22s, 22 pistols, 22 rifles, and then next thing you want to shoot a bazooka, next. But we just kept progressing, and then got into hunting, things like that, and shot a lot of shotguns. Shot mostly long guns growing up as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was always around reloading too, my uncle always reloaded. And again, I was very fortunate. I had, had good parents and all, and they were always very supportive of what I did. And when I was about 12 years old, I told my mom and stepdad at the time, I said, I want some reloading stuff for Christmas. And they're like, oh man, you're going to blow yourself up. And that's how I got into reloading. I've been reloading since I was 12 years old. And a vivid childhood memory is my mother would take me to buy gunpowder and bullets and primers as a kid. And I would point out what I needed, and I'd save my money. I mean, she would help me buy stuff, but I had a little money from working and all. And that's how I got started. And I just, got a lot of info from my uncle. He helped me a lot. And I started with a single stage rock chucker press that I got for Christmas, and just progressed from there to now, loading on an automated press. I mean, that was just unimaginable at that time when I started reloading. I mean, that was just something of royalty, or way above my standards. And looking back on it, it was really cool, really unique, and something, again, looking back on it, I was very thankful for that I didn't realize at the time. And it allowed me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have had the opportunities to do, as well as, as I got older, I actually did a lot of varmint hunting, prairie dog type hunting out west. And at that time, I couldn't have afforded to buy ammo.
Right.
And I hand loaded ammo, and, it allowed me to go and do that. And, it just, I don't know, it just really, really taught me a lot, really made me appreciate it. And I've got 2 boys now, and my oldest one, he's 9, and he's already into reloading. He wants to help me reload every night. And just, it's really neat. I really, that realm, and it's just a really good community. And I just really, really glad to be part of it. Really.
That is really neat. So you're going to school, and everybody's asking or telling their friends what they got for Christmas, and you're talking about getting boxes of bullets and gunpowder.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how it was. I mean, it's crazy looking back, but I mean, I can remember one Christmas. I mean, I was cutting grass in the summer, and of course, again, my mom and dad, I mean, they were very helpful to me. But I mean, I wanted like a weed eater and a blower and a lawnmower so I could cut grass and make money in the summer. And then, like you're talking, I wanted reloading stuff. And it 14 years old, everybody's like, what? And I'm like, heck yeah, that's what it's all about, And it was different, but it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it.
So how did you go from those plinking trips with your uncle and grandfather to competitive shooting? Where did the interest in first? What was the first handgun you bought for yourself?
Well, I'm gonna just throw it out there to you, and the first handgun that I think that was actually bought for myself, I actually bought from a friend, and it was actually a Ruger 44 Magnum.
Ooh.
And that's what I grew up shooting. My uncle had always shot very precise, more precision type shooting, revolver type stuff. And
okay,
we would shoot on Sundays. They would always let me shoot a 22. I shot a Ruger like Mark III 22, and they all shot 44s.
Mm-hmm.
And we would shoot skeet on a hill, the static, and you would just shoot till you missed. And that's how we started shooting. And as far as, handguns went, and as I got older, I obviously got to shooting bigger firearms. And of course, as soon as I got old enough and got enough money, I wanted a a big boy gun, and I bought a 44 from a buddy of mine. And so fast forward from there, and there was a fellow that I had grew up around that was friends with my uncle, and he all of a sudden got into this shooting sport. And me and him were really good friends. I mean, I'd been around him all my life, and again, he was into this shooting sport that I had no idea about. I get to talking to him, and he introduced me to IDPA, and I'm like, what is that? And he gives me, at the time, he's like, go look it up on the web, go Google it. So I did, and I kind of looked at it, and always was fortunate to have a place to shoot. We've always had private land and a range and all that. So, had ample opportunity to go and try it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and all, and I remember vividly, he started telling me about an El Perez drill. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I was as lost as a golf ball in high grass on that. I didn't have a clue. So he's like, well, just come out here. We'll go one Sunday afternoon, and we'll set up some stages, and I'll introduce you to it. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And somewhere in between all this, I had acquired a Glock 22 40 caliber pistol. That's what I had.
Okay.
Well, I show up with it with plenty of ammo, and oh my gosh, I mean, we run 3 or 4 stages, just more standards type stages of the stuff you see in IDPA.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have basically shot at the ceiling and not hit it. I mean, it was terrible. Now I could sling lead. I could sling it with the best of them, but I didn't know where it was going. And I got hooked that very second, and always been super competitive in life. I've always had to have competition in my life. Prior to the shooting sports, I raced motorcycles, and it just, as my kids got older and came along, I kind of got out of that, and man, it just kind of filled the void of that competitive nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I got hooked on it. And I eventually, after a couple of those sessions, we went to an indoor range that ran a, local weekly indoor IDPA match.
Okay.
And I showed up there, and I'll be honest with you, I was so nervous that, I mean, I couldn't have been any more nervous. I mean, I was scared to death. I don't ask me why, but I mean, I was just scared to death. And I shot with a couple guys there that at the time, they were the best shooters I've ever seen. And I thought, man, if I could ever be like them, I'll be somebody,
Right.
And so I made it through the match, didn't get DQ'd, didn't shoot anybody, didn't shoot myself, nothing crazy. And, shot terrible. I mean, just learn the rules 3 seconds at a time, just like a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept progressing for me. And at that time, it just really grabbed hold of me. And I was fortunate enough to be in a better position to where I could shoot more, and having a private range to be able to practice on. And I said, man, if you really like this, you could do pretty good at it. You can shoot as much as you want, and so on and so forth. And that's just when I got serious with it. I mean, right then and there, and just kind of buckled down, and just really took a liking to it, and got a little more serious with it.
Right. So it occurred to you, okay, I can get better at this, and I can do it without a whole lot of, when you've got the range, like you said. So it's not a matter of actually getting out and going somewhere to practice. you've got the background, the years of reloading, so it's
Right.
So putting together the ammo getting the ammo together is not an issue. It's just a matter of getting out and putting in the reps. So what did you do? Because you've gone from the guy who was scared to death at that indoor match to Distinguished Master. What did you do between point A and point B?
Funny you ask, because I knew this would come up, and so I started shooting. I started practicing a lot, and I know I'll probably have some naysayers on this, but probably the first 2 years of shooting, I probably shot somewhere between 70 and 80,000 rounds a year.
Ooh.
And I know that that's mind-boggling, but at the time, we had found a place to buy lead bullets like dirt cheap. And me and my uncle, we would buy them by the pallet and split them. And so, I mean, it was nothing for me at that time to shoot 2,000 rounds a week. And I'm just pounding rounds. And a few times along, I mean, even the guy that got me into it, he's like, man, you ought to go shoot with somebody that could help you, and what had happened, he got me into it, and pretty quickly I surpassed him. I mean, not that he was a great shooter, not that he was a bad shooter, but just by constantly shooting, I surpassed him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, well, what's the next step? Well, I was constantly reading books and searching for things online and looking for any bit of information I could find. A big guy that I followed was obviously, one of the greats was Bob Vogel,
mm-hmm.
and still is a great shooter. But I kept up with a lot of his stuff, and there was a local shooter to us named Matt Sims, and I shot with him a good bit, and he was putting on. He gave some classes and all that, and I went over there and shot with him, and he really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was doing wrong, that I had just been beating my head against the wall of, if I just keep shooting rounds, I'll figure this out. And that wasn't the case. And, me and him has become really good friends over time, and he's a really good shooter and just really been a good guy, and helped me a lot. I mean, he'd put a lot of time in with IDPA prior to me ever arriving on scene. And then at that point, my practices got a little more focused. I knew more how to practice, if that makes sense. To begin with, it was just a lot of rounds downrange, right, wrong, or indifferent, send them. And as I progressed, I got more into the fundamentals and could diagnose my own problems and set parameters on what I needed to, times and parameters on what I needed to be shooting. And then I started progressing, and then I started chasing better shooters and a lot of dry fire. That's that's almost a bad word in IDPA, but that was another thing. Someone, was like, "Do you ever dry fire?" And I'm like, "Dry fire? What's that?" I'm trying to dry fire. I'm live firing.
I'm doing 80,000 rounds a year. What do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I'm like I say, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I was putting some rounds. I mean, I shot every day. I mean, it was like a sickness. And dry fire. Okay, all right. Well, so I started doing that, and I'll admit I did it a couple nights, and I thought, this is the biggest waste of time ever. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done. But I had kind of come to a rock and a hard place and almost like plateaued. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I said, I'm going to give myself 2 weeks of dry fire. And I can't even remember what I had, but I kind of had a rhythm that I was working off of. And I said, I'm going to just stick with it. And I mean, it was like 15 minutes a night. It wasn't anything crazy. I said, I'm going to just stick with it. And at the end of 2 weeks, if I hadn't gotten any better, then the heck with it. And at the end of 2 weeks, I noticed some improvement. And I was like, well, maybe I better just continue on with this. And that's honestly that's how it started, and that's where the motivation came from. And you know, the diehard mentality. I mean, that's really where it came from.
It definitely can. So you've
go ahead.
you've made all these jumps from marksman to distinguished master now through match bumps. And
Right.
that's a lot of match bumps in all these different divisions, CCP and ESP, SSP, carry optics. Which of, thinking back through all of those experiences, pick out a couple that stand out to you that you look back on and you're really fond of or proud of, or that surprised you because you didn't think you did all that well, or you didn't feel as confident coming out of it. Or, you know, what are your big memories from those match bumps to master and to DM over the years?
Of course. I mean, probably the biggest one is SSP. That's where I started. That's where I cut my teeth, and that's where I basically wore a pistol out. You know, just shooting a Glock 34. I mean, I still got it. It's got the finish wore off of it. It's flappy and happy. And I just, you know, that's one of the fondest ones there, just simply because, I mean, I just put so much effort into it. You know, I burnt rounds and burnt rounds trying to make it to that next level. And I think it was actually a little cool story. Was at the indoor nationals one year. They had a chronograph issue,
Okay.
and I went in to the chronograph stage, and I failed the chronograph.
Oh.
And I come out, and you know, to be expected, everyone is, oh, whatever, you know, oh, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, I said, you go in there and shoot it. You come back out and tell me how you do. Well, all of a sudden, I mean, they just start filing out. Nobody's making chrono. Well, the long and short of it was that year they wound up and threw the chrono out, deemed it, you know, unacceptable, whatever. I don't know what happened, but there was a discrepancy with it. But anyway, come out and they basically DQ'd us, you know, and I remember the guy telling me, he's like, now you can continue to shoot for no score, but as long as you're safe.
Right.
I was like, you know, okay, you know, I mean, I'm not fixing to like lose my mind or nothing over this. He's like, well, you can continue to shoot. I said, okay, no problem. So at that point, I was probably halfway through the match, and I said, you know what? I might as well just let it all hang out. You know, I have nothing to lose now. I mean, I'm either DQ'd or I can win, one or the other. And I actually got the bump to master in, I think it was SSP at the indoor nationals. And I think I won my class by 25 seconds, but I shot with no pressure. And that was huge. I mean, I didn't have anything to prove, because in my mind,
your match was already over.
My match was already over. That's right. I mean, checkers or wreckers, you know, what have I got to lose? That was a big one there. And then, you know, obviously getting the bump to DM in CCP, I put in quite a bit of time with that. And again, I almost folded the tent on that, you know, prematurely, because I'd gotten so frustrated with it. And, you know, that's one thing I'll say about the sport. it's been very, very good to me. I mean, a lot of people have had very kind and encouraging words, and it's just been really good. And I didn't give up on it. I wanted to, but I stayed with it and finally got to bump DM, and that was, that was a feather in my hat, because I mean, I had put in a lot of time, and it doesn't make me any better than the next guy. All the rules still apply, everything, but there's just not a big crowd in that department, and I was really proud of that. That was really good for me.
Really cool. Now, for those who have been paying attention, probably noticed a few racing metaphors, and you mentioned earlier your competitive history starting out prior to shooting with racing motorcycles. How much of that experience carries over, not just that competitive desire to win, but you talked about, you talked about things like, getting to the checkered flag. How much of the sort of the mindset that you had to have to race motorcycles carried over to the mindset that you applied to becoming a championship level competitive shooter?
It was a lot, because to be competitive by nature is not for everybody. And if me and you were putting shoes on, I'm not gonna lie, I want to get my shoes on before you and have them tied. That's just me. I mean, that's just how I work. That's how my kids are. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, just the way it is. And the thing about shooting and the thing about racing motorcycles was, for the most part, it's a one-man show. You can't blame anybody but who you see in the mirror. And there's, I'll say this though, there is no adrenaline rush that compares with lining up on a 40-man starting gate in motorcycle racing. Now that's just that's just about all the law allows as far as getting high. I mean, that's just the way it is. But it's mental toughness to not crumble during that. And then racing motorcycles, just like shooting, it doesn't really matter how you start, as long as you don't wreck on the start. You have got to make it to the end, and you've got to be mentally tough, and you've got to just keep plugging. Just be consistent. Just keep turning laps. Just keep picking them up and putting them down, and don't let the train derail. And that's very true in a lot of things, but it's very true in the pistol sports. You have got to make it to the end and be consistent if you want to have a chance to win. And that goes for any level, because the bottom line is a marksman shooter is not necessarily competing with a master shooter. I mean, I understand how they are, but per levels, you have got to be consistent, and then you start taking steps to the next level. And if you're not mentally tough and you give up on yourself, and I've seen people do it. Trust me. I mean, I've shot with people that just, I don't know, they were kind of there just to hear their gun go bang, I guess. But it just, you could just tell. I mean, they were not mentally tough when it comes down to it. And that's just how it was. And you cannot, most everything you compete at is more of a marathon than a sprint. And that's just what I see in the pistol sports, and really a lot of competition, that you can get yourself in trouble really quick that you can't dig yourself out of.
Well, as we kind of wrap things up, I'm going to throw this, kind of what the last question's going to be. You've probably prepared yourself for it. You've dedicated a lot of time and effort to get really good at this sport, to progress to master in all these different divisions and distinguished master in CCP. And that's a tough division to do it in because of the number of competitors. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of mental toughness, like you were talking about, a lot of stick-to-itiveness. What is it about this sport that keeps you coming back and keeps you trying to get better? And what is it that's special about IDPA for you?
I like the grassroots it comes from. I've had the pleasure of sitting down and eating dinner with Joyce and Bill Wilson, along with my family. Good friends with Mandy Bachman. I mean, the whole sport has just been good to me. Not to mention the people that are involved with it. I will say this: I am competitive as they come. I do not like to lose. I think a lot of people will vouch for me. They've seen me in tight situations and under a lot of pressure, and I don't feel like I've ever made a fool of myself. But at the end of the day, I show up to shoot, to win and compete. But if it was not for the camaraderie of the sport and the people that do it, I would definitely go find something else to do, because at the end of the day, it's not keeping the lights on at my house. But the just simple fact of what it means to me is just the people, really. And it has been, I like the idea of a organization that started with an idea, and it's not some big corporate owned company. And I like that. I know there's we can get on the we can get on the internet and get on all the forums, and we can debate back and forth of what's best, which sport's best, what shooting sport's best, and all that. And the number one thing that I will say is, it's XYZ barbecue, and if you don't like it, go eat somebody else's. That's how it really boils down to what it comes to. But the people of the sport, and I mean, that's just what keeps me coming back. And as you start competing at a higher level, you start meeting other people that compete at a higher level. And what I really like about it is, if me and you are shooting head to head, I will tell you exactly what I'm going to do. There's no slipping around, or I'll speak for myself and from what I've seen. There's no slipping around. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to shoot a stage, and you can shoot it that way or you can shoot it your way. And it's like, may the best man win. And I like that, And then after the match, we can go out, we can have a drink, we can go eat dinner, we can do whatever, and life goes on. And it's just it's a brotherhood. I don't know how to describe it, And that is just, I can look at a person that shoots and I can tell, are they a shooter or did they just show up and buy a gun? I mean, it's just the way people carry themselves and things of that nature. But all in all, the shooting industry as a whole has just really filled a void in my life and been really good. I mean, I've just, like with anything, there's some bad apples out there, but the good ones outweigh those by a long shot. And it's just been really, really good to me. And the people, I guess, people in competition, I mean, that's what keeps me coming back.
Right.
I mean, it's obviously not the paychecks,
Well, Clint, thank you so much for doing this. Congratulations on all your success, and I look forward to a chance to shoot with you again. And I I won't be competing with you on the range, but I'll take you up on that shoe tying contest. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, no problem. Hey, I greatly appreciate you having me on your show. I really enjoyed it. And, maybe somebody can take something away from this to help them in the sport, make them a better shooter. And, if anybody ever needs anything, feel free to reach out to me. I love helping people and, trying to help somebody get to the next level, because if it wasn't for that attitude, I would not be where I'm at today. And, I greatly appreciate all the people that have believed in me and helped me get to where I'm at. From the shooting industry all the way to my family members that, hung around through all the craziness and rounds down range. But just a big thank you to the sport in general.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Okay, buddy.
All right. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you to our guest for coming on the show. And thank you to our awesome sponsor, Match Shark, for making this entire season possible. If you would, please take a minute to check out our website, Unload Podcast. Lots of cool previous episodes are there, links to all sorts of great information. Just check out the guest list as well. Join the Facebook group too if you want to connect with other fans and get updates on the latest news. You can find that at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of cool videos there at unloadpodcast.com/YouTube. And if you'd like to support the show personally, consider becoming a patron, just $1 a month at patreon.com/unload. And for your support, I'll send you out a sticker and you'll have my undying gratitude for your help. If you or someone you know would make an interesting guest for a future episode, you can contact me at unloadpodcast.com. Just go to the contact button in the menu at the top of the page and send me a message. Or you can send me an email at Lloyd, LLOYD, at unloadpodcast.com. Tune in again next Thursday for another episode of Unload and Show Clear, powered by Match Shark. We are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Be sure to check out all of the other pro-freedom podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.